Ryle Harper wasn't having the best shift. The freighter Odyssey had just finished a week-long haul between the outer mining colonies, and he'd been looking forward to a quiet maintenance routine. Instead, he found himself knee-deep in grease, calibrating a faulty pressure regulator in one of the ship's smaller airlocks. He sighed, adjusted his headlamp, and muttered, "One lousy day off, that's all I ask." The regulator panel hissed as it came loose, releasing a fine spray of hydraulic mist. Ryle coughed and waved a hand through the cloud. "Figures. This thing hasn't been touched in years." He tapped his comm badge. "Harper here. Airlock. Pressure regulators coming offline for repairs. Shouldn't be more than—" His words were cut short by a sudden groan from the bulkhead. The freighter lurched, sending a tremor through the deck plates. Ryle's toolkit rattled, spilling its contents. "What the—" Before he could grab onto something, the ship tilted again. A sharp, ear-splitting crack resounded through the airlock chamber as a section of the outer plating gave way. The emergency containment field activated in a blinding flash, but not before Ryle was yanked off his feet, slamming into the bulkhead. His vacuum suit's outer layer snagged on a jagged edge, tearing clean through. Alarms blared in his helmet, his HUD filling with red warning icons. He swore, fumbling for the backup sealant patches. His gloves were slippery with hydraulic fluid, making it almost impossible to grip anything. Come on. His breath came in short bursts, fogging his visor. Then, just as he managed to slap a patch onto the breech, the emergency bulkhead sealed shut with a deafening thunk. The pressure stabilized, the alarms faded, and the emergency lights dimmed. Ryle slumped against the wall, heart pounding, as he sucked in a deep, shuddering breath. That's when he saw the shimmering outline. At first he thought it was another HUD glitch. He blinked several times, his suit's internal diagnostics flashing across his vision. But no, this wasn't a trick of the light. A figure stood in the far corner of the chamber, backlit by the faint glow of the containment field. Its skin glistened with a pearlescent sheen, as though it were made of liquid starlight. It had no visible features, yet Ryle could feel its gaze locking onto him. He froze, his hand still halfway to his toolkit. His mind raced. Another engineer? No, the shift rotation's clear. A stowaway? That doesn't make sense either. Then what is it? The figure stepped forward. Its movements were deliberate yet almost liquid in nature, as if it flowed more than walked. As it moved into the light, Ryle realized it wasn't wearing any sort of protective gear. Whatever it wasn't human. The shimmering surface of its body rippled like water, and faint, translucent tendrils flickered out from its limbs, before retracting. It stopped a few feet away from him, tilting its head, or at least what Ryle assumed was its head. Ryle's comm crackled to life, but it wasn't any voice he recognized. A deep, resonant tone filled his ears, vibrating through his very bones. "You have seen me." The words were not spoken aloud, but rather resonated directly within his mind. "You have seen me unclothed." I what?" Ryle stammered, instinctively pulling his tool belt in front of him, as though that might shield him from whatever was happening. "Listen, I don't know who or what you are, but I think we've had some kind of misunderstanding." The figure's form shifted, a faint glow radiating from its core. "To see a Venali in their unadorned state is a violation of our most sacred codes. I am bound by law to remedy this dishonor." "Violation? Look, it's not like I walked in on you on purpose. I was just trying to fix a pressure reg. The hull failed. It's not my fault." The alien's voice, thoughts, pressed further into his mind. "Our law does not account for intent, human. Only for action. You have seen what should not be seen. There is only one path forward." Ryle's head was spinning. He wanted to call for backup, to get a senior officer, down here, or at least someone who knew how to handle a first contact scenario. Instead, he just stood there still clutching his tool belt as if it were a life preserver. What path? What are you talking about? The alien's glow grew brighter, its outline becoming more defined. We must be joined. Ryle blinked. Joined? You must become my partner, my consort. If we do not bind ourselves, the High Tribunal will execute us both. You cannot undo what you have seen. It is law. He stared, mouth open, as the meaning of the words sank in. Consort? Are you proposing? You can't be serious. The alien said nothing, but the weight of its presence pressed down on him like 1,000 unspoken questions. He looked around the sealed chamber, at the ruptured wall now hidden by the emergency field, at the glow of his HUD warning lights still flickering in his peripheral vision. Well, Ryle muttered, mostly to himself. This just got complicated. Ryle wasn't sure what was worse, the fact that he was technically engaged to an alien, or the fact that this alien was now standing uncomfortably close to him in the Odyssey's cramped engineering deck, explaining why refusal wasn't an option. Look, Kitara, I understand you're under some, cultural pressures, Ryle said, taking a small step back, though there wasn't much room to retreat. But this can't be the only way. Can't we just, wipe this from the record? Kitara's luminescent skin pulsed faintly. He guessed it was the Vinali equivalent of shaking one's head. Your request is not possible. The sacred bond has been broken. What was once veiled has been revealed. If we do not proceed with the union, my people will hunt us both. She paused, her form shimmering. And they will show no mercy. Ryle ran a hand through his hair, pacing in the tiny space. Okay, but why me? Why does it have to be marriage? Couldn't I just sign an apology or pay a fine? It is not merely a matter of punishment, Kitara said, her voice resonating directly in his thoughts. The exposure of one's true form to an outsider is seen as an invitation to join in union. It is not a concept easily translated into your human language, but it is binding under Vinali law. So it's like a contract? Ryle asked, his voice rising slightly. Some kind of legal obligation? In a sense, she replied, but it is also sacred. Once begun, it cannot be undone. Ryle stopped pacing, leaning back against the bulkhead with a sigh. I don't get it. Your people have starships, advanced technology, and you're telling me they can't make an exception for an accidental, exposure? No diplomatic loophole? The Vinali hold to their traditions with great reverence, Kitara said. Diplomatic considerations will not sway them. Once I return, the High Tribunal will convene. If I have no union to present, they will call for my immediate termination. And since you are the one who caused the breach, you will share my fate. Ryle's shoulders slumped. So, it's a death sentence either way? Correct, she said, her voice calm, almost resigned. If we do not act, we will both be declared as outcasts, subject to execution. For a moment, Ryle just stared at her, searching for any hint of doubt or flexibility. But Kitara's glowing form remained steady, her translucent tendrils gently swaying. She didn't look threatening, at least not in a traditional sense. In fact, if Ryle set aside the looming threat of an alien tribunal, she seemed almost empathetic. She wasn't threatening him. She was stating what she believed to be an unfortunate inevitability. Okay, Ryle said finally, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Let's say I go along with this. What does it even mean? Do we have to live together? Combine bank accounts? Have a honeymoon? Kitara tilted her head, a faint flicker running along her shimmering surface. The Union will follow the rights of my people. There will be ceremonial declarations, mutual exchanges of bioessences, and the establishment of a neural link. Once completed, we will be recognized as a bonded pair by the High Tribunal. The legal matter will be resolved, and you will not be harmed. That sounds involved, Ryle said. And by bioessences, you don't mean... I mean an exchange of our energy signatures, Kitara said quickly, her luminous glow dimming slightly. It is not a physical union as you humans would understand it, but it is binding nonetheless. Ryle's mind healed. And after that, do I have to, I don't know, go live with your people? You would be free to continue your life, Kitara said, though our bond will remain. You would be known as my partner, and should you ever encounter my kind again, they will treat you as one of us. So it's like a permanent alien. Diplomatic immunity, Ryle muttered. Great. The ship's comm system crackled overhead, announcing a routine status check. Ryle glanced toward the door, tempted to run and pretend this entire conversation never happened. But the thought of facing a high tribunal, or worse, the wrath of a species he barely understood, was enough to keep him rooted in place. Fine, he said at last, shoulders slumping. If this is the only way to keep both of us from getting killed, I'll do it. But I want to be very clear. I'm not happy about it. Kitara's glow brightened, a soft, pulsing light that seemed to convey relief. Understood. I will prepare the necessary arrangements. Ryle watched as she glided toward the airlock's exit, her form shifting in the low light. He didn't know what he'd just agreed to, but one thing was certain. His day had officially gone from bad to intergalactically worse. If Ryle had ever imagined getting married, and, to be honest, he hadn't spent much time thinking about it, he certainly hadn't envisioned it involving synchronized starship piloting exercises or writing poetic verses about someone else's bioessence. Yet here he was, standing in the cargo bay turned ceremonial chamber, his sleeves rolled up, frowning at a tablet filled with alien glyphs. This is supposed to be a poem? Ryle asked, holding the tablet up toward Kitara. I can't even read half of these symbols. Kitara stood beside him, her luminescent form subtly reflecting the soft glow of the cargo bay's overhead lights. It is more than a poem, she explained. It is a declaration of mutual resonance. You must describe how my bioessence aligns with your core vibrations. Ryle rubbed his forehead. I don't even know what that means. Kitara tilted, her head. It means you must express how our energies complement one another. In my culture, these declarations are seen as an essential part of the bonding process. They prove the union is harmonious and worthy. Ryle let out a long, weary breath. Why not just skip to the neural link thing and call it a day? I thought that was the important part. The neural link is the final step, Kitara replied patiently. But the courtship trials come first. They show our commitment to the bond. The High Tribunal will expect nothing less. The High Tribunal can bite me, Ryle muttered under his breath. Kitara didn't react, though he wasn't sure if that was because she didn't understand human idioms or because she was choosing to ignore him. After a moment, she gestured toward the control console set up on the far side of the cargo bay. We will begin with the synchronization test. It is a key part of the trials. Ryle raised an eyebrow. Synchronization test? Kitara moved gracefully across the room, the shimmering tendrils that extended from her form fading as she spoke. We must demonstrate that our piloting skills are aligned. Together we will maneuver a small vessel through a simulated obstacle course. It is a metaphor for how well we can navigate life's challenges as partners. Ryle blinked. You want me to fly a spaceship with you? Through a bunch of space cones? Kitara turned to him, her luminous form glowing softly. Precisely. He let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Fine. Sure. Let's fly a pretend ship together. Can't be any harder than reciting alien poetry. What followed was 20 minutes of trial and error that felt more like an awkward first date than a sacred tradition. Kitara took the lead, gracefully piloting the simulated craft through tight turns and narrow passages, while Ryle struggled to keep up. Every time he overcorrected or missed a cue, the simulator emitted a sharp tone that made his eye twitch. You must anticipate the movements, Kitara said calmly. Feel the flow of the controls. Our energies must align. Right, align, Ryle grumbled. It's not like I've been trained on this thing. I'm an engineer, not a pilot. Your mechanical aptitude should make this easier, Kitara replied, though not unkindly. Think of it as a harmonic convergence of our skills. It's a joystick, Ryle muttered, adjusting his grip on the controller. Not a tuning fork. Despite his grumbling, he eventually started to find a rhythm. Kitara's movements became more predictable, or maybe he was just getting better at guessing what she'd do next. By the time they finished the simulation, he still wasn't thrilled with the process, but at least they hadn't crashed in the virtual course. Acceptable, Kitara said as the console chimed in confirmation. Glad you're satisfied, Ryle said, stepping back and shaking out his hands. What's next, alien karaoke? Kitara didn't smile. She never smiled, but her glow softened slightly. A faint flicker of what might have been approval. We will now begin the declaration of bioessence. Ryle groaned. This is going to be a long day. The next few hours were a blur of incomprehensible glyphs, attempts at poetic rhythm, and Kitara's gentle yet unyielding corrections. As much as Ryle grumbled and resisted, he found himself learning more about her culture through the process. The Vinali saw their unions not as romantic entanglements, but as sacred partnerships formed to strengthen their lineage and uphold the continuity of their society. Each step of the courtship trials was designed to reflect that shared purpose. In a way, it reminded Ryle of certain human traditions, pledges made before family and community, symbolic gestures of mutual understanding. But the Vinali had taken it to an entirely different level, blending ceremony with practicality. It was a cultural puzzle he was slowly piecing together, even if he still thought the whole thing was wildly unnecessary. By the time they reached the final task of the trials, Ryle felt more tired than annoyed. So we've flown the space cones, we've written the essence poetry, and now we just have to link brains, right? Kitara gave a slight nod. The neural link will solidify the bond, but it is not merely a link. It is an exchange, a merging of our most fundamental selves. Once completed, the High Tribunal will recognize our union and we will both be safe. Ryle sighed, slumping against the bulkhead. Sure, why not? Let's link brains. But I'm just saying, on Earth, we keep things simple. Maybe next time you guys could try, I don't know, a nice dinner and some rings. Kitara didn't react, but her glow brightened slightly as she prepared the neural interface device. As the final step loomed, Ryle couldn't help but wonder, would the High Tribunal accept their bond as genuine? And what would it mean going forward to be bound to someone or something he barely understood? The Odyssey's bridge was quiet except for the low hum of the ship's systems, a deceptive calm that hung over the crew like a shadow. Ryle stood near the central console, arms crossed, staring at the grainy image on the screen. A massive, angular vessel bearing the distinct luminescent markings of the Vinali High Tribunal. It had appeared suddenly, dropping out of subspace without warning. Its jagged silhouette filled the viewport, easily dwarfing the Odyssey in size and firepower. This isn't just a routine patrol, muttered Captain Lisa, tightening her grip on the edge of the console. They're here for you, Harper. Ryle didn't respond immediately. He felt Katara's presence beside him, her faint, steady glow radiating calm, even as the situation spiraled toward chaos. Finally, he muttered, "Great. First they forced me into a marriage. Now they're going to arrest me for not doing it fast enough." Katara turned her shimmering head toward him. "The tribunal does not wish to arrest you, Ryle. They seek to eliminate any perceived threat to our customs. They see your hesitance as defiance." "I'm not defying anyone," Ryle said, louder than he intended. He rubbed the back of his neck. "I've done everything you asked. The ceremony, the trials. You have not completed the final step," Katara said, her tone patient but firm. "Until our neural bond is formed, the union is incomplete. The tribunal will consider it a failure, a direct affront to their authority." Before Ryle could argue further, the ship's comm crackled to life. A voice, deep and commanding, filled the bridge. "Human Ryle Harper, Vinali Katara, this is High Executor Clivus of the Vinali High Tribunal. You are ordered to present yourselves for judgment." Captain Lisa looked sharply at Ryle. "They're not asking politely." "No kidding," he muttered. The voice continued, its tone cold and unyielding. "You have until the next cycle to comply. If you fail to do so, the tribunal will carry out the sentence." The line cut off, leaving a tense silence in its wake. Ryle turned to Katara. "What sentence?" She hesitated, her glowing form dimming slightly. "Termination. Both of us." "That's extreme," Lisa said, her brows furrowing. "What kind of culture kills its own people over a misunderstanding?" Katara didn't answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her tone carried a hint of sadness. "This is not a misunderstanding. To the tribunal, this is a breach of order, a challenge to their authority. The sacred bond is more than tradition. It is the foundation of our governance. By failing to complete it, we risk undermining their power. So this is political," Ryle said, his voice rising. "This isn't about honor or custom. It's about control." "It is both," Katara said. "The tribunal's power relies on the sanctity of our rituals. If those rituals are questioned, their authority weakens. By delaying the bond, you have given their rivals a chance to claim that the tribunal is losing its hold." Ryle threw up his hands. "What, so now I'm a political pawn? This just keeps getting better." Katara took a step closer, her voice softening. "I did not wish to involve you in this conflict, Ryle. But the tribunal will not listen to reason." "We must act," Captain Lisa interjected, her tone sharp. "What exactly are you proposing, Katara? You said this neural bond thing would solve everything, but it sounds like the tribunal's already made up their minds." "The bond will prove our union is genuine," Katara said. "If we link our minds and present ourselves to the tribunal, they cannot deny it. Their own laws will prevent them from carrying out the sentence." "Sounds risky," Lisa said. "It is," Katara admitted. "But it is the only way to ensure both our survival." Ryle stared at her, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He wasn't a diplomat or a politician. He was just a guy who fixed starship engines. Yet here he was, caught in the middle of an alien power struggle with his life on the line. He rubbed his temples, trying to focus. "Okay, so we go through with this bond. Then what? Will they just let us walk away?" "They will have no choice," Katara said. "The bond is sacred. Once it is formed, we will be protected by the very laws the tribunal upholds." Ryle frowned, searching her glowing features for any hint of uncertainty. He found none. She truly believed this was the solution. "Fine," he said, his voice heavy. "We'll do it. But if this backfires..." "It will not," Kitara said. Her form brightened slightly, as if in reassurance. "Trust me, Ryle. This is the way. Forward." The ship's comm crackled again, this time with a direct hail from the tribunal vessel. Their time was running out. Ryle turned to Captain Lisa, who gave him a look that said, "Are you sure about this?" He nodded, not because he felt sure, but because he didn't see any other option. "Let's get this over with," he said, bracing himself for the unknown. As the crew prepared to transport Ryle and Chitara to the tribunal vessel, a quiet tension filled the Odyssey. Ryle couldn't shake the feeling that he was heading straight into a trap. But if this neural bond was the only chance to save them both, he had no choice but to trust